All right, welcome to another episode of Have We Got a Name Yet, Liam?
Well, we'll touch on that in a little bit.
We'll touch on that in a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
we'll touch on
the
that
as
soon.
of yet still unnamed podcast by NOTSTEAM Productions. It still doesn't roll off the tongue any easier, does it? I'm L. Grimshaw and joined by
Liam Davis, as always.
as always. So, it's your turn to write the script again this
It
week.
is.
So,
It's another week where I'm in charge. Drum roll, please. Thank you.
I'm drum rolling in my head.
Yeah, I drum rolled myself and then thanked myself.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. It was a bit
That,
my friend.
yeah, you know, I'm in charge this week, so I'm drunk on power.
Right, just come on. Not
yeah, so, how are you, my friend?
I've, as you know, through text, I've had an eventful few days that started off on Saturday with a migraine that was awful. And yeah, it's just got weirder and weirder.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I've just been working loads, like 2 jobs at the moment. So I'm like, what? And then this on top, but yeah, sort of.
Sadly, I'm currently working no jobs.
Well, I'm doing the working for the both of us.
Yay! I want to cry, but carry on. Let's go on.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll kick off as always, man. What have you been playing? Watching.
We've not really been watching any sort of like TV shows. We watched Lightyear, the latest Pixar film.
Okay, cool.
This morning, I think it was. Yeah, this morning. It's all right. It's sort of bubblegum movie.
Yeah.
Kills the time.
Just ask a question about it because I want to make sure I understand what it is. So, am I right in saying that this film is basically a film within the Toy Story universe?
Yes, which it works that very well.
Like so I can just still clear it in my head because it still doesn't quite make sense. Are we saying that then Andy, the character in Toy Story, the kid, is this a film that he would have watched at the cinema?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the toy Buzz that we know is based off he's like movie. He's a movie tie-in to that guy.
Yeah. So basically, within the first 5 minutes, it says about Andy in whatever year it was, got a toy Buzz Lightyear, Space Ranger, and then it goes on to say this is the movie that inspired that toy.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Now, one of my criticisms of it, which I kind of agree with a lot of film critics, because it didn't do very well in terms of, because Pixar, they're a high-class animation studio. Their stuff, even if you're not a huge fan of Disney, which I'm not, I really love the Pixar films, especially.
Yeah, same here. Absolutely.
Soul, Coco, and like what Inside Out are some of the best ones that I've seen. This is a sort of middle tier Pixar film. I sort of compare it to the likes of Incredibles, which I know is a controversial choice because a lot of people love the Incredibles films. But I think in terms of what Pixar do, their skills are better with other films like WALL-E and Up, where they like pull on the heartstrings a bit more.
Yeah,
and got that
really nice
charming story. This isn't one of them.
Mm.
It's got some charming bits in it, but as a general film, the character doesn't translate very well from being a toy to being a fully fleshed out human, because it's very much the same character, but in this, rather than it being funny because he's a toy that thinks he's a superhero, like Super Ranger or whatever, Space Ranger, he's a man who puts others at risk because he thinks he's the best Space Ranger. So it's like a kind of weird.
Right. Yeah. So he's like his ego gets in the way a bit.
Yeah. And then the sort of villain of the series, the villain of the film, a bit lazy. in my opinion. A bit lazy.
What how do you mean? The way that they set him up, or the way?
So there's the classic twist halfway through, or like towards the end, where you find out that the guy pulling the strings has been somebody important to the plot all along.
Right.
It's a bit of a okay.
Yeah.
Like I was expecting it to be like some evil bad from another galaxy, because it is Zurg from the Zurg from the second film.
Yeah, from Toy Story 2. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah. Yeah. Well, of course.
It's bubblegum. You can watch it. It'll kill like an hour and a half, whatever it is.
Yeah, good 90-minute film.
Yeah, good 90-minute film, like Invisible Woman, that's 2 hours long.
Cool. Well, yeah, I've not been playing much new, really. Like playing a bit more of the hacker one. Forget what it's called off the top of my head. Watch Dogs 2.
Oh, Watch Dogs 2. Yep.
Yeah. I've been playing a bit more of that. Like I think I realised now after playing it again why, for me, it's like probably a 7 out of 10.
I mean, you forgot what it was called about 5 seconds ago. So
exactly. And the reason it's not like an 8, because it sort of you could argue it plays as well as an 8 out of 10 would, like in terms of its open world and a lot to do, and it's it's quite dense, and like I mentioned last week, it's it's quite colourful and everything. But I think the thing that I find weird is sort of the tone of it. So like when you're with like the hacker lot, you're all about freedom of information, people not having your information used against you and all that stuff.
Yeah,
trying to liberate people. But then you go on a mission and you can shoot dead like 50 cops or guards or whatever, and it's like, yeah, it's fine.
yeah. I feel like because obviously there is the passive system, but I think
but it's how I try to play, but it's kind of difficult, and I've got it on the hardest difficulty now as well because it's like the third time I've played it. But it's like, ugh.
Well, I think they should have like played into that a little bit and introduced like some like morality system where like you've got these hacker abilities. Do you go vigilante and like try and bring down the corporate sort of elite, or do you maybe become a bit of a villain and go around robbing people blind and stuff?
A bit more maybe militant.
Yeah, like be a bit more militant and like
still going for the same goals, but just in a different way.
Yeah, one of my big issues with Watch Dogs is why it's one of those games that's fun to play for about an hour, and the missions are quite finicky. So like, there was one that I was trying to do where I've not completed it. It's one of those that I'll just I've downloaded every so often and have a quick play on. It was a mission that I was trying to do where you're trying to break into this person's house, and it wasn't a fun mission. Because you're there having to like move, like switch between a car and then switch between a van and move things along, and the moment you got seen, was when the level would reset and you go back to the point, and you'd be like, it just slogfest. So I was mad keen. I've been playing a little bit of Yakuza 0, which I know we've mentioned, and you're not a big fan of the series, but it's classic sort of beat 'em up, very arcadey. It is very fun though, because there's like just weird, like in Rockstar games with the random events, strangers and stuff. Well, basically, it has the same sort of function where as you're walking around, you'll bump into people. So like you'll bump into, say, a mime artist who's on the street. And then like there's one where it was a living statue. And he's got like a huge crowd of people around him all staring at him, waiting for him to do something, but he really needs to go for a piss. So you've got to try and create a diversion by like distracting this crowd that are all obsessed with this living statue. And then there was like one mission where I joined a cult. And yeah, things got a bit sort of escalated. I ended up beating. Oh, just bear with me one sec. I'm just going to pause recording.
Yeah.
There's been an update on the. So yeah, whatever that was, I'll just. I don't know.
Well, I've also been watching. I've been watching lots of films recently. I've got a list on.
We haven't talked about a lot of films. We've been doing a lot more about TV series and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But yeah, the film. I suppose I recommend. I might start doing that. Start doing a weekly film recommendation. But this week, it's going to be the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Brilliant film. Really, really good.
It's one of those. It's been on my list for God knows how long. I never got around to watching it, and the other night I had nothing to do, and I saw it on my list. Yes, go on, put it on. I didn't realise like the breadth of the cast in that film.
It's a really good cast. Jim Carrey,
yes,
Harry, however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And it's quite, even though it has got some humor in it, it's quite a serious film because it's all about this guy who's willing to undergo amnesia to
basically,
forget a bad relationship
because he found out that his ex had done the same thing.
And it's such a good film. But yeah, it's quite a surprising cast when you actually sit down and watch, because isn't Mark Ruffalo in it?
Yeah, and Elijah Wood. Kirsten Dunst.
Kate Winslet.
Yeah, Kate Winslet's the partner, yeah. It's crazy. Top cast.
It's who plays the lead scientist?
Oh, it's
the guy from Batman, isn't it?
Which guy from Batman?
He plays one of the corrupt cops.
Yes, he does. Yeah, yeah. Does he?
I can't remember his name.
He plays a gangster in it.
Oh, is he a gangster?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, they're all the fucking same. The gangsters, cops.
Whatever. Yeah, he's recognisable. I think he's English.
Yeah, he is. I think he's Liverpool. I think. I'm sure once when I saw him, because I don't know, I can't remember his name. I just know he's in a lot of British stuff. And I'm sure, oh Jesus, I'm sure in an interview I once was seeing him speak, but it could have been somebody else. So I don't fucking know. I don't know why I'm continuing this point.
Yeah, that's a great film. It really surprised me. Like it's quite artsy.
Yeah, so
not to the point, because I'm not big on like proper like over the top artsy stuff. So it was a nice balance. There was humor, there was some real like almost like poignant points about what it's like being in a relationship.
Yeah,
I'm sort of glad I watched it now and not say 10 years ago when before you'd had a proper adult relationship, and some of the nuances would be lost on you, I think. So I'd recommend it. Yeah, to people of the age of 27 and over, I'd say.
Yeah, you're 27 and over. No, I think I watched it when I was quite young. I think I watched it when I was like a teenager or something.
Yeah.
Because I've always been into like the more sort of artsy films.
Yeah.
I love Wes Anderson because he's got this almost every scene could be a painting style of directing. And one thing I love about the Eternal Sunshine on Spotless Mind is the bit where he's in his childhood and he's like regressing.
Yeah.
And
like that, yeah.
If I remember rightly, all that was shot sort of in order once. Like it was like a perfect shot of him running around, because they wanted to try and capture it as chaotic as possible. So it was like literally somebody following behind him, like away. and that's what gives it this like almost claustrophobic feel when you
Yeah,
watch it.
lots of great camera work in it with like here, like some steady cams, but then some handheld stuff as well. Like I think edited together really well as well. And
Yeah,
it's the whole package. You don't realize the film, from we can explain it to people like we just have. You've no idea until you watched it.
yeah, it's one of those films that I don't think you can really ruin because it's a bit like Whiplash. Like you can tell people what it's about, but to fully experience the film, because it is effectively a film about drumming. It's about
Essentially, yeah, it's about a drummer, yeah, and
it's
his
really fucking good.
pursuit of being the best drummer in the world,
Yeah,
and
but
having an arsehole teacher.
but
That's simplifying it so much because
yeah,
people watch it, it's so brilliant.
I just like my review for it when I wrote it's like if Tarantino made a film about drumming, it would just be super aggressive and like almost yeah.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so I think you're right. Like it is one of those films that you could talk about in great lengths. Obviously, trying to avoid spoilers because there are some pretty interesting sort of moments in that are good to watch without seeing it before. Um, but yeah, fully recommend that film.
yeah, absolutely. So on to our first feature of the week. So we're going to touch on weirdest cameos. So this could be anything. It could be
Could
a
be.
cameo in I don't know, a video game if you can think of one.
I'm thinking of a few actually,
Well, yeah, we'll get into it. Also, films and TV, of course. Um,
and albums. There have been some musical cameos.
oh, well, would you like to start us off then?
Not on a music one, but
Well, whenever you want.
well, I suppose it is music related. So one of my favorite cameos that I've ever spotted, of my own sort of free will, although I did sort of see it coming, because I was following this band quite a lot at the time, was when Mastodon appeared in Game of Thrones. So they've appeared, I think it's twice, maybe
Okay.
three times in the season, or in the season. Um, beginning off the beginning, they play Northlings, the people from the north, whatever the fuck they were called.
Wildlings.
The what?
The Wildlings.
The Wildlings. He played the Wildlings. They played, so it was three of them played the Wildlings, and then there was an episode where they got killed, and then they get brought back, and then they played White Walkers, and it were really cool. I knew that they were doing something for Game of Thrones because they did a song for Game of Thrones called March of the White Walkers, um, which is pretty good. It's not the best track, but it kind of fits the TV show well. And shut up, Google. They also like they're a band that are kind of nerdy, and you would expect them to do it. I'm sure one of them's got a cameo in one of the Star Wars TV shows, but I'll have to double check that.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so that nicely brings me onto my first cameo mention, which is the Star Wars, sort of this second generation, or the second generation, sorry, third generation of Star Wars stuff, be it films or TV. Because in the was it Force Awakens,
Yeah.
the first stormtrooper that Rey uses the Jedi mind trick on, it's Daniel Craig.
Is it?
It's Daniel Craig, yeah. Which like I had no idea the first time I saw it. Someone told me. I watched it again, and obviously you don't see his face. He's a stormtrooper, but yeah, you hear his voice. You're like, holy shit! That's James Bond just got mind tricked. What the fuck? Yeah, that was great. And in another one that I really like in the Mandalorian series, I think series one. I think it might even be it's either the last episode or the penultimate episode. There's two speed bikers, stormtroopers outside of the I don't know,
Yeah.
town or whatever it is, and Yeah, they're both talking, and they've got what's his face. They've got Baby Yoda, Grogu. Yeah, they've got him in a bag, and they're going off to deliver him. But one of them is Jason Sudeikis.
You mentioned this last week, yeah. I think last week or last time we were on the phone or something. Yeah. Well, that brings me on to in Halo game series. I think it was Halo 2 specifically, maybe in Halo 3. Conan O'Brien and I think it's Jay Leto. Jay Leno.
Right. Jay Leno, yeah.
A cameo as two soldiers, sort of like just sort of making their rounds as you're like wandering around as Master Chief. And if you sort of stand near them, they'll make lots of like little quips, like, "Oh yeah, he's the main character. We don't really address him," and like little quips for each other. But it's definitely Conan O'Brien. I just can't remember who the other guy was.
See, I didn't know that because it's quite interesting because Conan O'Brien also has a cameo in Death Stranding. Don't know if you played that or if you got to that bit, but I think it's a side mission, and he's in one of the like bunkers that you make a delivery to or you pick something up from. And yeah, he just pops out, and you're like, "What the hell? It's Conan O'Brien." But then he's just talking absolute bollocks because it's a Kojima script. So none of what he's saying makes any sense, and you're just like, "What the hell's going on?"
I get so many people recommended that I played Death Stranded. Like my sister's played it, she's recommended it to me. You've recommended it to me. A few people that like I'm friends with have recommended it. But it's Hideo Kojima. One, I'm pissed off about Silent Hills. And two, I just
not his fault really. He got sacked,
Yeah, but still.
Or did he quit? But still.
Well, I think he quit.
Konami were being horrible.
Yeah, but
they won't let him make the games he wanted to.
Yeah, because they're fucking weird.
So mechanically, they're almost perfect. Like that's what he's really good at. He's like whole stealth mechanics and building a new world and new, intricate little systems that interact with each other. That's what he's good at. But when he's given full reign and he can write the scripts as well, that's when you get the garbage. Because you get cutscenes that are like 3 hours long.
Right, okay. I was going to say
people monologuing and it not making any sense. Like he needs to have a bit of hubris and
allow people to skip.
Yeah, exactly. No, not even that. Because you can skip cutscenes.
Can you?
Or can you?
I don't think you can because I've tried playing.
No. I don't think you can. And yeah,
I tried playing
Nolan North in it as well. Nolan North plays one of the bosses in it. And
everything.
But it's weird, and you're like,
it's weird when he does the classic Nolan North voice.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, okay.
Sometimes it works. Like it works for like Deadpool, the Deadpool game.
Yeah.
But like when you like hear it in other things, like I think there's a cheat where you could make all the characters in Uncharted sound like Nolan North,
right?
And it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
but
that's what it's all about.
But yeah, there's been loads of weird ones. Like there's Matthew Perry. He voiced a character in Fallout New Vegas.
Oh yeah.
Like, but he didn't quite. Well, if you've played it, it's the flattest performance like of voice acting ever.
Yeah.
He claims that he didn't fully understand the script, and he didn't fully understand the idea that it was going to become a video game, or even what a video game.
I get that. He'd done a lot of drugs by that point.
Yeah.
That's fair.
The royalties of Friends were getting low. He must have been wanting to do other projects.
I don't think the royalties of Friends are ever getting low, man. It's on all the time still.
I hate that show.
Oh, I grew up with it.
So did I.
I don't watch it anymore, but I love it. I can't help it.
See, I just remember watching the same episodes every other day because it was always repeated on Channel 4, and my mum used to love it. And now I just.
And to be fair, that it's a good show for cameos. While we're on the subject, For some of there's been some huge celebrities in that, like Brad Pitt and Bruce Willis. Paul Rudd had like a recurring part on it.
Speaking of Brad Pitt, he's in the first Jackass movie.
Is he?
Yeah. So he was in the area, and somebody who worked with Jeff Tremaine, the guy that directed the Jackass, was good friends with Brad Pitt through working with him on a different film. Story is that they landed in, I think it's LA that it's filmed in, and they basically met up, and he's like, "Oh, we're filming Jackass." Brad Pitt had seen the TV show and was like, "Can I join in?" But because they didn't have the insurance to have him do any of the stuff,
you can't break Brad Pitt. Fucking hell.
And so they made him wear a gorilla suit the entire time, so that anything that he did.
Some of the shots, he's the gorilla.
He's the gorilla. You know when they're playing, they're running around the car park with trolleys, and they've got the gorilla man in the thing. That's Brad Pitt.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it does mention it in the credits, like gorilla played by Brad Pitt, but he doesn't speak. You don't see his face or anything like that. So it's just a weird little cameo that nobody knows about.
It's not even really a cameo, like sort of, because you don't see his face, you don't see anything. It's like could be anyone.
Although that method would vastly improve Ed Sheeran's cameo in Game of Thrones.
Agreed.
If he just wore a gorilla suit.
Yeah.
It'd be just as distracting and, if not, more believable.
Yeah. I've got another one for cameos. Have you seen the film At World's End?
Yes, the Cornetto.
Oh no. Oh no, sorry. It's called This Is the End. Sorry.
Oh, This Is the End.
Yes. With Seth Rogen and co.
Yeah. Go on.
I love that because there's so many cameos in it anyway. Because it's supposed to be real life, and everyone's playing sort of like a warped version of themselves. And yeah, you've got all that sort of crew, like James Franco, Seth Rogen, Jonah Hill, the
guy that voices Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon. I can't remember his name.
I don't know who that is.
The tall, lanky one, the one that's like a bit quiet, a bit of the introvert.
Oh right, yeah.
Can't remember his name.
Something Green, is it? No, I might be talking shit. But yeah, so there's a bunch of them, and then you've got like Emma Watson.
Yeah.
He like turns up at the party, and for those of you who don't know, it's like an end of the world thing. It's the reaping or whatever they call it.
Rapture.
The rapture. And yeah, like beams of light come down and take people up to heaven. But like the people that are left on Earth are subjected to like, demons and stuff. So they're having a house party when the world starts to end, and like they're all scum, obviously, because they're actors. So none of them have gone up to heaven, which I love. I just love the whole premise. It's so good, and they start to like fall out and everything. And yeah, the cameo that I want to mention, because I saw something on this the other day, an interview with some of the cast, like right at the very end, Channing Tatum is brought out.
I was just thinking this.
Yeah, he's brought out on a lead, like he's on all fours and he's got like a gimp mask on, and the whole get up. Yeah. And then like, who the fuck's that? And he pulls his gimp mask off, and they're like, holy shit, that's Channing Tatum! Like, what the fuck? And in these interviews I saw, apparently like they've been going through, like they were nearly finished filming like the whole thing, and they've been trying to come up with someone like famous to cameo as that role, but like they couldn't get anyone that was famous enough for it to be funny, And it was Jonah Hill said to Seth Rogen, he said, I bet you Channing Tatum would do that. He's like, I guarantee you. He's like, he's always looking to like flesh out, and like show off his acting skills. He wants to do different kinds of parts and that. And then when they got in touch with Channing Tatum, he got an email from Seth Rogen at like 3 a.m. He's like, He's like, oh, I don't get emails from Seth Rogen. What the hell is going on? And he agreed to it at 3 a.m. He said he'd had a few as well. So yeah, turned up on set. First time he met, what's the guy called? The guy with the curly hair that has him on the lead.
Danny McBride.
Yeah, Danny McBride. He'd never met him before either, and he thought, "Oh, the best way to introduce myself is in his costume." So he's got like the full gimp get up on. He runs into Danny McBride's trailer while he's having a nap. He jumps on the bed with him and starts like dry humping him. And then he's just like, "Yeah, there we go, perfect."
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to break the ice.
Yeah.
See, I genuinely think that Channing Tatum is a brilliant comedy actor. I
think he's a better comedy actor than he is like a serious actor.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything too serious. Although he plays the sort of action meathead pretty well, like the sort of classic 80s action hero films. In one of the the Morgan Freeman's the president and he keeps trying to get killed.
White House Down or whatever.
Yeah, he's in Olympus Has Fallen or some shit.
Oh, I think that's the Scottish one. What's his name?
Yeah, but I'm sure Channing Tatum play because he ends up getting replaced.
No, I think they're different film series. I think there's separate film series that came out around the same time. And one's Jared Butler, one's
You're right. Yeah.
And they're both basically the same film. They're both protecting.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And it's like
in one of them, Jamie Foxx is the president, and in the other, Morgan Freeman's the president.
Yeah.
So they both had the same idea.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but these sorts of things, like with huge budgets and like huge stars, and they go around, like they'll have scripts and everything that go around Hollywood. So everyone in Hollywood know that these films are getting made, and like they'll both know that the other one is making basically the same film.
Yeah.
So it's like when they're competing against each other, it's like it's mental. Just push one of them back to like 6 months or 12 months or whatever.
Or just don't make one of them and make a different film.
Yeah, but like, they're not going to turn it down, are they? They're like, whoa.
I like to think that you just had, on the same day, two really uninspired writers being in opposite ends of Hollywood, in opposite buildings. Both of them get up at the same time, run into the sort of like main writing room and go, guys, I've had a well good original idea. And then both of them just proceed to go, yep, we're going to write that. And that's what happened. And both of them now have a rivalry where they're like, fucking hate you.
What I hope happened was one of them was just about to finish writing it in a coffee shop. And he goes to the loo, and the other one has a little look. Oh, what's a good idea?
Oh, do you know what'd be brilliant though? Like,
now I could make that better by replacing Gerard Butler with Channing Tatum, and bringing.
I like the black president though. I like the black president.
I'm gonna keep the president black. Yeah.
Let's make him younger. Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, there we go.
That's basically what happened, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's a few times that shit like that's happened, and then like occasionally you'll get the like really bad B movies, like when Transformers first came out. There was like a B movie version that came out just called Robot Cars. It was about let's guess cars.
Was it about robot cars?
Yeah, it was cars that could turn into robots.
Wow.
Or robots that could turn into cars, but only cars. That's where so unlike Transformers, where it's like jet planes and all that,
and helicopters and stuff.
Yeah. They could only turn into cars. That was their power. So just get in a helicopter, you'd be fine.
Cheaper CG, to be fair.
Yeah. So weird thing. Yeah. But we should probably move on because otherwise we'll get stuck on this one topic.
Yeah, that was a good one. That. So we've got a usual slot here for Ellis if he would like to plug himself.
That's bad timing because that makes it sound really egotistical. Yeah, so I've got loads that you can read, man. I've written tons, including a little short piece, although it's not that short actually, called Bobby. It's a bit like if Han Solo found himself stuck in Spirited Away.
Ah,
It's
okay.
a unique twist on sci-fi and fantasy, and it's available to read now on my Patreon for free. I only ask that if you like it, share it.
Good plug. Well done.
I feel like that was the most sincere I can be. I've
Yeah.
also rubbed something in my eye, and it's really hurting.
Oh, nice. So next little one, we've each got the same list of 6 TV shows, and we've been tasked. I say we. I say I have tasked both of us with coming up with
Quite aggressive is tasked.
yeah.
I have tasked you.
So basically, want you to adapt these TV shows into video games. Tell me which studio you've picked for what TV show and why, and a little bit about the mechanics and how you think it would work, and little things like that. And as I let you go first last time, I'm going to kick things off with the first one on our list, which is of course I still think a great series. Despite the ending, like not many TV series have a great ending, so we'll forgive it its sins. But Game of Thrones, and
it was great up until the last season.
I think a lot of the last season was quite good as well. I think it was just a little bit rushed. I think, yeah. But anyway, we're not talking about the show. We're talking about the potential game. So, I went for, and I've got a feeling you may have gone for the same one. Although we'll see. We don't know what we've each chosen.
No. So this could either work in our favor, or it could just be us both agreeing, just being like, "Yeah, I agree. Let's move on."
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so this could be a terrible section, never to be seen again. Who knows? I've gone for CD Projekt Red.
No, I did think about that, but I thought it'd be a waste, and they've already done something very similar.
Yeah, see, I was apprehensive choosing them because The Witcher 3 is essentially Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So, basically, but I just thought they'd be like, out of the people, the different developers out there, I thought they'd be able to do it justice and have a fleshed out world, with different areas, different biomes, things like that. But then, of course, the sort of character building and world building that they do is just beyond anything else out there, probably.
I do agree with you. I think that they would make a great Game of Thrones game.
Yeah.
I have used CD Projekt Red on my list, but
in a different spot.
And I think you'll like my choice. For this, I've gone with Bethesda.
Okay.
I think that if they stuck to this, maybe the Skyrim formula, tweaked it slightly, and I would have it where you don't play as any sort of main character.
Okay.
You play as your own character that you build, who's just a sword for hire. You start off in, say, King's Landing.
Yep.
And you wander your way through the sort of Game of Thrones world. Very much like how they did with Skyrim, but I'd do it more. I probably do it more in line with CD Projekt Red's style of these vast open areas that are all interconnected, but you've got to like fast travel to certain ones in order to fully explore them.
Yeah.
And just because I think if Bethesda tried to do the entire thing rendered and stuff, it wouldn't work the same way. So I'm thinking what they would do is start off at King's Landing, you wander your way around, sort of making a name for yourself in the Game of Thrones universe.
Yeah. And I'm guessing there's going to be different ways of doing that. Which sort of, it's similar to the way that I envisaged the CDPR. Like, I think one of the reasons I've chosen CD Projekt Red is because I think it should be a third person, and I know that you technically can go third person with Bethesda games usually, but I feel like they don't play the same when you're playing them third person. Like the aim slightly off.
You know, just quickly on that, that was one of my major criticisms of Cyberpunk, that you couldn't go into third person.
Yeah.
Like, I think that game would have been so much easier to play if it was in third person.
Well, I've seen a third person mod, and I think I know why they didn't do it in third person, because your person doesn't look like a person because of the way like the arms and stuff. Yeah, and yeah, it's crazy, and like the way they jump and stuff just looks so unnatural and strange. Like, so yeah, I get it, but at the same time, it's like they made a huge song and dance about the like the clothes, and like because the clothes and the armor in that game are so detailed and incredibly detailed, but you can't see it unless you literally stand there and look down. You can't see anything else. It's like,
or you like walk in front of a mirror.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it was. I just thought it was a bit lazy, but.
Yeah. And there's only the odd cut. There's only the odd cut scene where it's not for first person, because the vast majority of it is first person. But I think there's only like maybe 2 or 3 cut scenes in the game where it's like a normal cut scene and you see your character. But usually, yeah, it's first person.
But I think you're right. CD Projekt Red would do a great one, especially with like in Witcher. I just think with Bethesda, it could be their chance to sort of explore a new IP. And I do like Bethesda's sort of world building, especially in Skyrim. And I think to do, say, like the Game of Thrones style, like carving your own way, you could have it where you align yourself to like different houses.
Yeah.
And you can live out the sort of the experience of the series, like what actually happens in the series. But it's not sort of your main focus. Your main focus is, building your name up. So yeah, I think both would be pretty decent.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they'd be very different sort of games.
Yeah, I think yours would be a bit jankier than mine.
Probably. Well, although mine would probably work better on day one. So,
well, I don't know. Like Skyrim was a mess at launch, if you remember.
True.
Not as bad as
mine will run better on day one.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But yeah, it brings us on to our next one, which going for Breaking Bad. So go on. What studio have you chosen and why?
So this is the one that I was trying to sort of explain to you before we started recording. So I was thinking I'm going to start before I go with the studio. I'm going to tell you what I envision the game to be like.
Okay.
Because obviously Breaking Bad, it's going to be difficult to make a video game out of it because you would be playing as Walter doing various meth cooking situations. So is it going to be like a cooking simulator, but for meth?
Okay. Yeah.
So what I would do is I would have it as sort of retelling of Breaking Bad, a slightly more focusing on a few different key players.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things, the way that I would do it is I would have it as like a linear game, almost like chapters, a bit like Max Payne.
Right.
And it's people recounting their experiences with Heisenberg and the sort of legend of Heisenberg.
Mm-hmm.
So retelling, and then you've got Jesse Pinkman, who's the one that sort of like basically tells the story more as it is. And these sections could be more sort of like visuals, and like you kind of go around the area picking stuff up, like doing the actions. So do you know what I mean? Where that with like the sort of like down sections, and then you've got like bits where you're playing as Mike, popping people in the head, or you might be playing as like a DEA agent in one section, and
each stage chapter or whatever.
Yeah.
different person, different objectives, different mechanics. I'm guessing, like
yeah, sort of. So like some
play,
mechanics, you'll basically just have to like find objects and like combine them and stuff like that. So the company that I was going for, Naughty Dog.
Okay, yeah. Well, they're used to the like linear games.
Great storytelling.
Yeah, I was just about to say the storytelling is second to none, or well, maybe Rockstar. Like, yeah,
Storytelling in a different way, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. No, it's a strong shout. Like I've gone a completely different way. So mine's like there's probably versions of this game already out there, but not done on the scale that I'd be happy with. So the developer I've gone for would be 2K.
Okay.
Developer that make XCOM. And it would be essentially, for me, XCOM, but Breaking Bad.
Okay.
So I'll break it down. It won't be exactly the same. It won't be as combat heavy. So you'd have your sort of strategic layer on top. So that you'd have a map of, say, Albuquerque. That's where it's set. And your different places. The whole shebang, and it's about building an empire.
Yeah.
It's basically an empire building game. And you work your way up, and you recruit different people, and it wouldn't follow the same story beats as the show because it wouldn't really work. He largely works on his own. So it's an adaptation. You can take certain liberties. Yeah, you choose who to work with in the bid. You could hire Mike, if you wanted to, or
to take out a rival gang. So
you're
thinking more of like the resource management style.
Essentially, yeah. And I'm working on your like upgrading your lab and like having different relationships. So like you could like Gus Fring, or you could go with some other ones like
Cartel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could make the decision yourself. But then that'd be the strategic layer, and then the tactical layer. So instead of the sort of XCOM style combat, you would have the heists that they do. In more series, there's some sort of heist that he pulls off, and we'd sort of riff on that and have like there'd be like a police station, and you've got to steal something out of the evidence locker. But you can plan for it beforehand and
choose who to work with.
Exactly, yeah, and what tactics you're going to go for. And sometimes it can go wrong. Like you can still get the job done, but it'll go spectacularly wrong, like it does in the show. I'd like that sort of like a clear objective to do, but then shit hits the fan, and you're just like, oh shit.
It can be like because I can imagine in your sort of like style, there'd be like messages pop up saying, "Oh, Hank has been asking questions," like and it's like you're suspicious, like suspicion level rises, and you're like, "Oh shit, I've got to, find a new form of distribution, or I'm gonna get busted." I see that working. I think for me, I would go more with the sort of telling the story of the rise and fall of Heisenberg. But obviously, I wouldn't have you play as Walter, because I think if you played as Walter, like he's not the kind. Maybe the only time you play as Walter would be right at the very end of the game.
Yeah.
When it's telling how he dies, and he goes in like guns blazing to save
Jesse.
So for like the most part, it'd be like gang, like small, like the cousins, the two like cartel people that you play as at the beginning, and like you can be like trying to like break into his house and stuff without getting caught, and like knocking out neighbors or whatever, like a bit like Hitman-y. And then it'll switch to Mike's perspective, and it's Mike. And the reason like I do it with Naughty Dog is because their ability to tell stories that are sometimes quite graphic as well.
Yeah,
especially
and their attention to detail as well.
Yeah, and I just think that for me, they were the ones that I would probably say if any studio is going to do it, it'd be that studio.
Yeah. Well, brings us nicely onto our next point, because the next one is The Boys, and for this, I chose Naughty Dog.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you why. So I'm thinking tonally. The Boys is one of it flips and flops so quickly between quite serious, like it touches on like systemic racism and all like just like serious issues, but then it's also got fart jokes and people exploding out of penises and like graphic hilarity and
various sexual
the reason I choose Naughty Dog is because like when I say tonally, like if they can strike a balance between the Uncharted games and the Last of Us games, where you've got balls to the wall, comedy, like light-hearted stuff on this end, and then the deep dark misery of The Last of Us. If you can strike a nice balance with that, excuse me, I think that's sort of the tone that you would want for this. And I would, again, because it's Naughty Dog, I would have it sort of linear. It wouldn't be an open world. You would be playing as the boys, and yeah, maybe I'm split between whether you would be playing as just one character, say Billy Butcher, or if you'd be the whole team, like say all 4 or 5 of you.
Yeah.
Although it kind of complicates things with Kimiko, because she's not in the comics for one, and she's got powers and that. So I don't know. I think if you could almost do it like a co-op game.
Yeah. So like, you could do like a 4-person, like almost like co-op Left 4 Dead style game, but they're like it's like a heist, going back to like Breaking Bad.
Yeah, and they're going after superpowered people, and they're one-on-one. You're at a disadvantage, but you work together. Yeah, I think there's a game in there somewhere.
Yeah, see, I've gone a little bit different. I went for Insomniac games, so the developers of Spider-Man, because I was thinking more you get to play as a soup. Because I do like that idea, but then obviously thinking about it, obviously the boys is less about the soups. But I was thinking from that perspective.
Which soup?
Well,
or do you make your own?
Sort of make your own, and again, look at like the politics of like being a soup, like where your aim is to join the 7, and you've got to like prove your worth, and by like like I don't know if you've played the One Punch Man game.
No, I haven't.
One Punch Man game, effectively, that's what you are doing. You like do various fights, and like you build up your rank so that you can be taken in by the sort of like hero society. And I kind of do the same thing with you, like trying to like make a name for yourself in New York City as the new upcoming soup. You build your own like power system by perk points and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got Compound V, which you could work into being like an actual thing. Like, you go home, you've got to like buy, like you've got to use cash to buy vials of Compound V.
Or maybe it could be you could tie it to like followers.
Yeah, because social media plays a massive thing.
Yeah, and absolutely.
As well, because in Spider-Man, so one of Insomniac's games, which is one of the reasons why I picked it, but there is another game series that they did called The Resistance: Fall of Man.
Oh yeah.
Actually quite a dark series, so they have got the potential.
Was that Insomniac?
Yeah, it was Insomniac Games.
All right, okay.
but you could, like in Spider-Man, where they have the sections where you play as like Mary Jane, or you play as
Yeah, my least favorite sections of the Spider-Man game. By
yeah, yeah,
I've gone back to replay it. When I hit those bits where you're running around as Miles or MJ, I'm like, this isn't why I'm here.
no, I want to be swinging.
Yeah, exactly. I want to be Spider-Man all the time.
Well, those bits you could play as the boys. So you could have bits where you play as the superhero, and then there's bits where you play as the sort of boys, and then you could have them combine.
I think it would work if if the suit you're playing as is actually a good guy, and he realizes that the other supes are bad guys.
I think that's the only way you would be able to do it. I wouldn't
Yeah,
really
I think
have a
so.
morality system where you can join the seven.
Yeah.
Maybe you
Well,
could
I
have,
think joining the Seven's fine.
but like with an agenda to bring them down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
Like
yeah,
you basically be Starlight.
effectively, yeah, you'd be Starlight's character.
Yeah. But
Uh,
you'd still be in the game, but you just play as someone else.
See, I quite like the idea of them doing like an alternate timeline,
Yeah.
one
Well,
where
why not? Because it's so different from the comics. It's just another adaptation, isn't it? So
yeah,
you got free reign.
but you could have it where like um instead of A Train killing Huey's missus, it's a different soup that does it, and it's like it causes a slight ripple effect that
Yeah.
you know, then you've got like this new soup that comes into town, and Starlight's sort of been there for a few years already. So like you're not playing the exact same storyline, but
Yeah.
things all kind of
Got the
fall
same players
the same
involved.
way.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that'd be good because as well you could have like a sort of like showdown with Homelander,
Yeah.
which I'd want that to be a bloody affair.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think in my version, I'd want the the fights against the soups. They'd all be like essentially mini boss fights, apart from the
Yeah,
big soups, which would be proper boss fights. And I'd want some sort of like cool mechanics in each one. So obviously they've all got different strengths and weaknesses, and you go into the mission with the right equipment because you got Frenchie who he
he's
comes
like
up with
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, and he'll be like, "Oh, I've got this for you this week," and like, "Oh, okay, cool, cool." And then maybe you could do the Compound V thing as well, because in the comics, the Compound V works different. Like as soon as he joins the boys, Huey, in the comics, he gets jabbed with Compound V, and immediately becomes like stronger, faster, like more resilient, so he can go toe to toe with some suits. So you could do something like that. So you could have maybe you do play as Huey, and you're going up against groups of I don't know like armed guards and stuff, and sort of still getting that kind of power fantasy.
Yeah.
You could. There's a few ways you could go with it. So I think
Well,
good options both. I think.
another studio that I was thinking as well was the studio that makes Saints Row. Them doing the boys.
Yes, I never liked the Saints Row games.
Have you not? See, I like.
Not really. They all got a bit. They got a bit too silly and over the top for me. Like I wouldn't. I would want it to be a bit more grounded. Like it kind of like the in the comics and the show. It has that sort of human.
Human touch, yeah.
Yeah, it does, and it sort
No,
of
I
reminds
agree with
you
that.
that like these people that are so powerful, they're like you're ants compared to them, and that sense of risk, that sense of fear, really. Like when Homelander's not happy, and
Yeah,
whoever else is in the room immediately tenses up. Like, oh yeah, I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about the boys and Naughty Dog all day. Next one, because I wanted to mix it up a little bit and give us some different genres to work from. Gone for one of the longest running shows ever.
I think it is.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
I mean, obviously,
Um,
it's not one continuous
of
series.
course, yeah, of course, yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, Star Trek.
yes, Star Trek. I've never been a huge fan of Star Trek. I've seen like the films and the odd TV show. I was more Star Wars than
Yeah,
out
I
of
would like to say though that the first reboot film with Chris
it. Great.
Pine, that was a great film.
Yeah,
Really, really good, sci-fi action film. Good film.
I quite like the second one. I don't remember much from the third one though.
Which is the one with Benedict Cumberbatch? Is that the
Second one,
second one? Yeah, that was quite
Star
good as
Trek
well.
Into Darkness. Like Into
Yeah, he was
Darkness or something like
playing Khan.
Yeah. I've gone with, and it's a bit of a lazy choice, but I've got a sort of, I don't want just one studio to work on this. I want
Okay,
two studios to work on it. I want
okay,
BioWare, so
right.
obviously the makers of Mass Effect,
Yep.
and Odyssey Games, the people that made Outer Worlds.
Okay.
So I want them to sort of do the almost like Borderlands style humor, the sort of like over the top, a bit sort of tongue in cheek style humor, but with like Mass Effect mechanics and
So the
do
whole
this.
ship thing and having your crew and all that stuff.
Yeah, having your crew,
Yeah,
having like missions where you've got to go and be slightly diplomatic, or
yeah.
you can go in guns blazing, Um, so like I'd want them two studios because I think that Odyssey could do the sort of like the storytelling, whereas BioWare could do the mechanics and like get the game to be grounded a bit better.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good shout. Although you're kind of cheeky taking two, but
Well,
I'll let you. We'll let you have it. We'll let
cheers.
you have it. You've got enough budget to hire two studios. That's fine. Me, I went for Arcane.
Okay, interesting choice.
Reason I went for Arcane, we've spoken a lot about Arcane and why I love them, and Prey for me is one of the best sci-fi games ever. Yeah,
Trying to
just
think of
thinking,
one.
thinking back, like it's definitely up there. There's not many better than it for me.
Time
And
split into.
I like the. Uh, I
Brilliant.
love the attention to detail that they have. I think they could recreate, the interior of a
USS Enterprise.
Enterprise or whatever. Yeah, I think they'd be able to do that brilliantly, and I would have it first person, just to sort of add to the immersion of it. And it'd be again. I wouldn't have it open universe. It would be quite a
Yeah,
step thing, and I more cinematic than I think they're used to. But I would still have the whole idea of freedom of choice. So you
yeah,
can, yeah, like sort of how you mentioned with, because it'll be around like first contact stuff. It's like, oh, we're at a new planet. There's intelligent life. How should we deal with this, Captain? And you'll be like, oh, let's kill them all, or
yeah.
let's,
Let's
yeah,
try and be friends with them.
yeah,
Let's
let's
eat
introduce
them.
ourselves and blah blah blah, and yeah, and I think they could take it in cool directions because I think they tell stories quite well. I think
They
their
liked,
art style, like the art style that they tend to go for with their games, like it's not
yeah,
exactly the same, but I quite like the color palette that they use, and I think that would work quite well, with the different colored jerseys that they all wear, depending on your rank and
yeah.
all that stuff, like and the vibrant planets and things like that. Yeah, I'd love to see the detail in a Arcane Star Trek game.
Just a slight bonus. What about a Star Trek roguelike game where you just play as a red shirt on like a hostile planet, and every time you die, because the red shirts always
They
die,
always die.
you
Well,
just
they
come
always
back as
land.
a
They
different red
always land
shirt.
with one random red shirt.
Yeah, and
There's
that
always main
person always
characters. One
dies.
random red shirt. You're like, that dude's dying in about three
Yeah,
minutes.
exactly. So you could have a game built around the fact that it's always the red shirts that die.
Yeah, that's what it could be called, Star Trek Red Shirts. Yeah, I think that's a great shout. The next one, this is probably the one I'm sort of looking forward to the most in a way. Going for Westworld, and the studio I've gone for is BioWare.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned them on the last one. Now I'm thinking, it's obviously within the world of Westworld, so it's basically the old West, but there's different factions, and the way I would do it is you can play as either a guest or a host. So you're either human or cybernetic, whatever they're called, and but you can still sort of choose. So even if you're human, you can side with the robots, or you could side with the humans. And the same for if you're a robot, you could side on either side.
Yeah.
But there'll be different factions that you could basically side with. Like if you remember in the show, like there's the bit where they introduce like samurai and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that's one faction. You've got like this group of hillbillies up here. You got maybe the security people.
Yeah.
The runners of the place.
They're like evil corporate.
Yeah, like the corporation. Yeah, so they're like obviously like try and save people, but mainly just kill the robots. That's all we really care about. But then you'll have like a nice group of like mixed, where they'll all be like human and robots, but they're like, oh, we'll try and save robots and humans. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. Like you could just horses. Oh, yeah, it's not going to be just. It will. This one will be an open world game.
Yeah.
But you haven't got. It's not just horses and like, old west style stuff. Like you're gonna have like modern dune buggies and motorbikes and what have you.
But it's like sort of in a sort of weird, creepy, almost like that fake reality.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I think towards the end it would open up a section of the real world, like as it starts to spill out into the real world. Maybe have like a little section of a city or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really want to play that.
I went sort of similar sort of idea in terms of gameplay, but I was thinking CD Projekt Red.
Well, that's a good shout as well.
To be fair, and the reason why I did it is because it's kind of the best of what they tried to do with Cyberpunk, with the sort of like robots, free will, and everything like that.
Yep.
And it also, I think, would play really well as like that sort of Witcher style of like going from one place to the other. I would have you play as a robot.
Yep.
And introduce, funnily enough, some roguelike mechanics.
Okay.
Where every time you die, you lose your loot and you're sort of having to start again. But because obviously there is that element in the show that, these robots get killed, reprinted. They just get reprinted.
Yeah.
But in terms of it being a roguelike, this robot has gone rogue and is sort of seeing the world differently. And like in the show, sort of helps other characters discover that there's this big overarching conspiracy.
Yeah.
So I would have gone CD Projekt Red with that. Like, think that they.
Yeah, that's a nice shout. I think CDP are doing a roguelite. That's because I've still yet to play AAA roguelite. I know there's the one on PS5, Returnal, which does look awesome.
That does look really good.
Still yet to play that. We'll do at some point. But yeah, I want another. sort of. Well, I suppose it's not really AAA. It's what do they call it? Is it Blumhouse? Make a Returnal. They're not huge. Like usually they do
movies, don't they?
Sorry.
Blumhouse, did you say?
Yeah, is that not who developed Returnal?
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. We'd have to do some research on that.
Yeah, but yeah, whoever it is, I think usually they do like 2D games, so it's like one of the first 3D games they've done.
Right.
But yeah, it looks incredible, and
It
yeah,
does.
I really like the idea of a top tier roguelite. And what I love about that idea, your idea as well, is that the whole reprinting thing, because that makes sense in the
Yeah.
world of Westworld. It absolutely makes sense because it shows you in the show, like they take the brain out, or that little thing in their brain, put it into another body that's just been reprinted. Boom, you're back. Crack
Yeah,
on.
exactly. So like it could work really well, and like every time you get reprinted, you've things that you can like alter, like come back
Yeah,
with slightly more muscle mass, and that can be like your upgrade system,
yeah,
so that you survive longer.
yeah. Or like better skills with different weapons and things like that.
Yeah, and like because you are a droid, and like even though you are aware of like what's going on around you a bit
Yeah,
more than other characters, you can still have that like side quest element to it where you go to a small town and it's like a bunch of bandits are coming in, and because you've broken your sort of AI slightly,
yeah,
you're actually going up against people from the real world and like killing them. And it's like, oh, hang on, that's not right. And
yeah,
slowly the world gets invaded by the security that are constantly trying to track you down, but
yeah.
an anomaly.
And of course, like the end game is to make it out of Westworld.
Yeah,
So there's a pure tangible route that the roguelite would go down. Yeah, great choice, man. I think that's probably my favourite that either of us have chosen so far.
thank you.
But yeah, that was a good one. I'm gonna go let you. Yeah, I went first and last one. So the last one is
Supernatural.
Supernatural. Yeah, which I know you're a big fan of. So go on, take it away.
Well, I won't go big fan of. I
Okay.
like it. It's one
Yeah.
of those. It's a show that it's got some brilliant episodes and a lot of filler because it's a show where there's like each season's got 22 episodes.
Right, one of them. Yeah.
Like some of the episodes you watch it and it's like, oh my god, we've seen this happen like 6 million times, and it's got that element of there's always like a risk that one of them's going to die, but they're not aware that there's 15 seasons still to get through.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it would work as a video game. With you being able to like sort of travel around doing sort of odd jobs whilst you hunt down this big nasty. And I think if Rockstar wanted to go a different route, maybe not as big as a map as they normally would have. Have you gone for Rockstar as well?
I've also gone for Rockstar as well.
I knew this would happen. I knew that eventually we would both pick the same game.
Yeah, the reason being is because I looked at the first five on the list. I'm like, how are Rockstar not on this list?
To be fair, I thought Rockstar for Westworld, Breaking Bad. I was like trying my best not to be Rockstar for all of them.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that's a great shout. Like, it'd be sort of like it's like almost like Witcher vibes. Yeah, it's got Witcher vibes, hasn't it? But modern day. I think that's really cool.
Guns. And like you can like you'll be able to like do your sort of like missions, which would be like dealing with like a werewolf or whatever. And there's like because you'd be able to play as Sam or Dean. So you could have Dean being like, oh, I'll just run in, shoot it. If it don't die, it don't die. And then Sam being the more sort of like sneaking off, like doing research, trying to get a better idea. And like you could go about it two different ways. So that you could like have a bit of different, like more control over how you play the game.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons I chose Rockstar for this was their character switching mechanic, which obviously we all know from GTA 5, they're using that like all the time. Basically, having the two of you together all the time, and having drop in and drop out co-op as well.
Yeah.
Say if you're playing, yeah, absolutely, and yeah, I think there's like so much potential there for like rather reductively calling it a modern day Witcher, which I think has so much potential to it. It's like, whoa, someone takes a punt on that.
It would work. The only thing I'd do differently is I'd make the sort of like enemy design a hell of a lot better than it is in the TV show, because the TV show lacks in that department. Like they're so lazy with the sort of like enemy design. Like it's like there's like episodes where it's like, oh, we're fighting a Wendigo, and it's just a man with sharp teeth.
Yeah.
So like,
admittedly, I've only ever watched like one episode of this. And the reason I watched the episode is because I was at a girl's house and she really liked it, and I was like, okay, yeah, watch it.
It's one of those that if you only watch the one episode, you're probably gonna hate it. But you invest time in it because there's just some really well scripted episodes. Like, and there's some characters that are really funny, but as a general rule, it is that procedural sort of every episode's its own story. There's
Monster of the Week.
Monster of the Week, Doctor Who special.
Which is sort of how I wanted the Witcher TV series to be.
Yeah, same.
I wanted it a bit more Monster of the Weeky, because that's what a Witcher is,
Yeah.
But,
whereas they're trying to go more the sort of artsy-fartsy Game of Thronesy.
Yeah, especially in the first series with the different timelines that it didn't tell you about.
We started watching the second season. We just couldn't get into it. Like, it was one of those that, like, because the first season was really good, but then
I think the second series is better. I think it's better paced. It makes more sense now.
Yeah.
I think the second series, and I think it's got a bigger budget as well, and you can sort of tell with the second series as well.
Yeah, definitely.
They didn't really know. I think Netflix took a bit of a punt on it. They were like, "Well, we've got Henry Cavill because he's a big Witcher fan." They were like, why not? Let's give it a punt. We'll chuck him X amount for series 1. So, good. Yeah, we'll give him X.5 now for series 2. And I think series 3 they'll get even more, because I'm pretty sure it did pretty well the second series. But yeah, good
to know with Netflix, they're one of the worst for just hacking shows.
For cancelling shows, ridiculous. Yeah, anyway, we won't get into that because I could be here all day moaning about Netflix. Next up, we have, because I've added this in, so we're going to talk about our most anticipated games. And the reason being is because we're in kind of a flat period in terms of game releases.
Yeah.
Like, particularly in the AAA space. Like, there's always indies coming out. Like, indies don't really slow down because, people work on them from home, all that stuff. But yeah, in terms of the AAA space, there's basically nothing now for a little while. I think
November is when God of War Ragnarok drops, and then you've got.
I can't see that coming out this year, to be honest.
I don't know.
I don't see it.
They've not pushed it back much.
We've not seen anything for a while, though.
We'll see.
It's like, yeah, I'll be surprised if that comes out this year.
It's going to be about $1,000 when it comes out, so I'll probably wait. I'll just make up my own God of War story.
Yeah, so to sort of try and fill the gap, we'll talk about what we are looking forward to. Now, that in what was originally slated for November, but has been pushed back to next year officially, is Starfield, Bethesda's latest IP, which I know you're sort of like lukewarm on.
Yeah,
fair to say.
I'll give it a go.
So buzzing for this. Like, it from watching that 16-minute gameplay trailer thing. Like, it's definitely it's definitely got the essence of Bethesda. Like, there's that jank that even though it wasn't really in the, you couldn't really tell. It's like, yeah, I don't, yeah, you can still see the telltale DNA.
Bethesda signs.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's still got their DNA running through it, which is good because it means it's going to be a brilliantly deep game with a hell of a lot to do. And so many little bits to it. Like you can make your own ship, you design your own ship.
Yeah, elements of
Fly around in
that.
space, and they're saying that there's 1,000 planets, and not every planet has like a town on. They have like different settlements and stuff, but they have like procedurally generated sections, or like the rest of the planet's procedurally generated, so that like
Yeah,
works in
so
a
it'll be like
different
the
area.
landing section, and then everything after that is just
Yeah, which I think that's probably the best way that they could do it, like a mix and match of sort of
level
start.
design and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think they would probably limit it like that. That probably is the only way to do it. You can't curate entire planets.
no.
You can't. You just can't, can you? Like that would take far too long. So you write a bit of code that can do it for you. So it absolutely makes sense. And from what they showed us, all right, it'll be polished up stuff, and I imagine the game doesn't run half as well as it does on the trailer. Or I mean, now at this point in time, I mean, there's no way it runs that well.
No, it will
If it
probably
did,
in
it would
line
be
with in line with Bethesda, it'll probably not be the game that people are paying for when it first comes out.
yeah.
It'll be the sort of bare bones, and they'll start building it with patches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Nah, 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 nah.
Yeah. See, I get it. I absolutely get it. Why some people aren't, as on board the hype train as I am. Totally get it. But I don't really care because I'm on the hype
Fine,
train.
fine.
I'm enjoying myself.
You enjoy the hype train that's
I am
going
absolutely.
so fast, so fast.
Yeah, it's going a little bit slower now because they did push it back to next year, and we don't have an official date for next year. So who knows? They might have pushed it back 3 months. They might have pushed it back 12. We don't know.
So this brings me on to my sort of hypothetical game that I've only seen sort of announced, but there's nothing to it, and it's scheduled to be released end of this year.
Okay.
But it's still saying to be announced 2022. But there's nothing else on it.
Yeah.
And it's the Quiet Place game.
Oh, I didn't know they were making a Quiet Place game.
No, neither did I until
That's cool. Who's attached to it?
You what,
Do you
sorry?
know do you know like what studios or anything are attached?
A studio that I'm not 100% sure of. Never heard of them before. Illogica and Epitome Studios. Saber Interactive. So not any sort of
Epitome Studios.
Oh yeah, it's like a weird 1 and a 0.
Right, yeah.
Epitome Studios.
Yeah, I don't know. Who are the lead developers?
Ow.
Oh, okay. But yeah, anyway, yeah, go on, carry on.
So no, well that's it. That's all I know about it.
Well, that's all the details we have.
That's all the details I have. But
there's a Quiet Place game.
There's a Quiet Place game coming out, and I imagine it working.
Like, how do you see that working? Like, I immediately in my head, and people are going to be fucking switching off. Like, oh, he's going to say Naughty Dog again. You're right.
Because no, I wouldn't do it. Naughty Dog.
Go on, you do it.
I would do it. I'd do it like a sort of like one of those like survival games. With a sort of survival game, but I would do it where you've got to remain silent.
Well, no shit.
And then like you'll have like a radar where like the slightest sound it goes ping. A bit like Alien Isolation.
Right. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
And I think that's probably what they're going to try and go for. I'd be kind of shocked if they do the whole running and running with guns, toting, like blowing
Yeah.
brains out and stuff.
Now that I think about it more, yeah. Unless it's like, unless it's sort of set after the films where people know about the tactic of,
Yeah, staying silent.
feedback stuff, that fucks them up, and then you shoot them. Like,
If they do that, then that's just going to be a bit shit because
I could see them sort of building up to that and having that as like the last like 2 or 3 chapters. Like, oh, they figure it out as you're going, but like the first sort of like, say,
yeah,
10, 12 hours of the game.
I like how they did Prey,
Yeah, yeah,
where you start off really underpowered and then
yeah.
you find
Slow build up.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know much about it. I don't think it's going to come out this
Well, but that's a nice segue to my next one because all we know about the next one, my next one, is it's a Ubisoft Star Wars game.
Oh yeah, I tried to look for this. What's it called?
There's no title yet, as far as I know. There's a working title. I think it's like Project Overlord or something like that. Like, I don't know.
Do you play Emperor Palpatine just sat in a chair being evil from the background, like nah?
I know. So what they have said is that it's going to be an open world Ubisoft Star Wars game, but that's literally all they've said. So I don't know whether it's going to be like Assassin's Creed, which, like, I imagine it being Assassin's Creed with lightsabers, which I'm not sure about that. But
yeah,
an open world Star Wars game, get on my screen. Like, how long has it been? You know what I mean? Like, the amount of open world games that we've got some absolute shitters out there, and there's no one has done an open world Star Wars game. What?
Well, there was one when what was it called? Star Wars Jedi Academy.
Was that wasn't really open world though.
No, but it was the sort of
levels and stuff. Yeah, no, I'm not having that. That's not open world.
No, they were like hub worlds.
Yeah, it's yeah. You were doing loading screen to go from one to the other.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, no, I'm not having
by that logic, Borderlands isn't an open world game.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But it always markets itself as an open world. It's not.
It's not. No, it's not.
Because you're constantly going through bloody loading screens.
Yeah.
That's not on my list. Not really a fan of the Borderlands game.
Same here. I've never really been a fan of the sort of the tone and the.
I like the tone. I just don't like the gameplay. I just find it boring as fuck.
I was going to say the gameplay as well. It's like so, like it needs. It's why I'm not a fan of Halo as well, and other.
Yeah, I'm not.
Shooters, like a lot of them, they just need. It's hard to say. It's like they need something else. Like with Prey, all right, technically it's a first-person shooter because it's first person and you do shoot shit, but that's not all you do. You know what I mean? It's like and there's a lot of tension at the beginning of the game when you're very underpowered and you haven't got any guns. Like you've got all that. Whereas in things like Halo and Borderlands, it's like, oh well, from the very start, I can go forwards, backwards, left, right, jump, crouch, shoot.
That's it.
Yeah, and you get like grenades. And
you get better guns.
And you get like little powers that have a cooldown, but nothing original. Like,
no,
in those sorts of games, like for me, it's dying for something to give it a revamp. Like I think it's just stuck. Like look at the Doom games from 20, 30 years ago. You know what I mean? They're not totally different from that.
Yeah. Well, I really like the most recent Doom games. I think they're really good.
Oh yeah, really good. Like I've played them a little bit. Like, I'm not very good at them.
No, neither am I.
It kind of annoys me because I die a lot, so I haven't played them a lot. But I do appreciate them, like the whole thing of like, oh well, if you kill them with a melee weapon, you get this ammo back, and then you can use that ammo, and it's like this ammo. Yeah, so it's like it's forcing you to always be moving around and doing stuff, and like it's brilliant, and that is doing what Doom do. So
Doing what Doom do.
Doing what Doom do. So they set the bar initially with Doom.
And then they did Doom.
And then they did Doom 2 and 3 as well, of course. And set the bar with all of them. And then went away for, this is what I love about them. They went away for what? 15 years, was it? Between, probably longer.
So Doom 3, which was arguably the worst one because they tried too much to make it like a sort of like Resident Evil kind of game.
Yeah, but that was when? That was like 2002, was it?
No, it was later than that. I think it was like 2004.
Okay, but still, they waited a good, because it was 2016 they did the reboot.
Yeah, 2016.
It's at least 10, 12 years.
Yeah, no. So
and in that time, so when they'd finished in, let's call it 2004, the next big like first person shooter, you could argue between say Halo and Call of Duty, which largely very similar.
Yeah.
Like, mechanics, when you strip it down to the bare bones of the mechanics, very similar games. Halo's a bit slower and a bit more deliberate.
Yeah.
Sort of
You've got like the
times.
shields and
Exactly.
like that.
Yeah. And like different kinds of weapons, like it's futuristic. And you got Call of Duty that's trying to lean into the realism of things, but only a little it more so than Halo does.
Yeah. Well, it started off that way.
Well, yeah. And then they went to space and had Kit Harington being the bad guy. Like, okay. Which I've not like this is like the only first person games that I'm a big fan of are ones that aren't like the typical, Halo.
Yeah, like for me, like Bioshock. Bioshock was a brilliant sort of.
Bioshock's great. Like Dying Light, I absolutely love the Dying Light games. Like kind of janky in like terms of script, and they're not written very well. Mechanically, they're brilliant. I think they're really good fun. You can run around that city for hours and not get bored. It's kind of the opposite of like a GTA.
Yeah,
because you can drive around San Andreas or whatever for an hour and you get bored. You know what I mean? Like, you can do other missions and or whatever. But in Dying Light, it's like, there's loads of zombies here. Like, you're jumping off one, get on something else, like grab onto something that pulls you up to the top of the building, and then there's a whole route where you're like sliding under stuff, jumping over.
I love that. Like, how seamless it was.
Yeah, that's crazy good,
man. The only other game on my sort of list that I'm sort of looking forward to is Destroy All Humans 2, the remake, only because I absolutely loved that game growing up and nostalgia.
Yeah, I've got the remake of the first one.
It's
downloaded on my Xbox. Still not been onto it yet, and I will do tonight. Now that you've reminded me,
it's brilliant.
One of my favorite things about those games is something that isn't used enough in video games is telekinesis.
Yeah,
being able to pick it up and fucking lob it. I'm there.
Wherever you want.
Have you played Control?
Yeah, I didn't. I've played it. I like the mechanics, but not so keen on the sort of game itself.
Oh, see, I absolutely love that game. One of my favorite games of all time. It's probably in my top 10. Like mechanically, it's impressive. The storytelling aspect of it as well is like. Did you ever watch Fringe?
No.
The TV show. Oh man, it's got such Fringe vibes and sort of X-Files as well a little bit. And I fucking love that game. Just anything where you can pick shit up with your mind and lob it at something else. That's so satisfying.
To be fair, I do agree. Like games,
not enough games do that.
Yeah, there was a brilliant game that I had when I was a kid that was was it? Second Sight.
Oh,
brilliant!
I want a remake of it. This is the only game that I will campaign for a remake. That was such a good game. It was all different psi abilities, like from telekinesis, but you could also do astral projection. There were so many, and you had weapons in it.
Yeah,
and it was one of the first games I remember playing as well that was third person, and if you had a weapon with a scope on, because it had like contextual cover as well, like Gears of War, where you get into cover and then you pop over the top to aim. And if it had a scope on, the screen would go, it would change to the scope. Whereas previously to that, usually it would just zoom in, like it'd still be the normal screen, it'd just zoom in a bit. But this was like, oh no, it's going to go into the actual scope, and you're like, oh, because this game's like 15 years old at least.
Yeah, no, it came out like 2003 or something like that.
Yeah, excellent game.
It
good
was made by
storytelling to it as well, because it was done in chapters, but they weren't in order. Because the main guy was like, he'd had brain damage basically, and
he's got psychic abilities.
Yeah, exactly. And as he's going through the game, he starts to remember stuff, and then you'll do a mission from his memory, and you're like, where he's getting trained to use his abilities, and then when you come back to him, it's like, oh yeah, I've got these new abilities now.
Yeah,
Big remake that.
That and Oddworld Stranger's Wrath when I was a kid. They were like I bought them 2 games at the same time, and I absolutely fucking loved them. Right, I think we should probably close this off with a hypothetical.
Yep, closing hypothetical. So, don't know if you can call this a hypothetical, but now this is one that's been doing the rounds, and it's one that I just want to sort of debate with you for a minute. So, give me your answer. Are there more doors or wheels in the world?
What? Doors or wheels?
Doors or wheels?
Wheels.
Okay, why? Tell me through your thinking.
So, most vehicles have more than one wheel, yeah? So, you've got a lot of
say on average, four wheels.
The average being like the 4 wheels, right?
Yeah.
But we're also talking Lego wheels as well.
Okay.
Whereas buildings also usually have multiple doors. So
think about a kitchen. Think about a kitchen, my friend. All the doors in those kitchens. Cupboard doors, man. That's a door.
Oh yeah, fuck.
But you've missed something out on the car as well. So you've got the 4, like on average, 4 wheels. Then you've got the steering wheel as well.
Yeah.
That's another wheel.
Right, so you're just taking anything that's fucking wheel shaped.
Well, it's a wheel. It doesn't like what's wheel shaped. There's nothing that's.
I was thinking literal wheels.
Like, circular is the shape. Wheels are things that do a wheel good job.
Did you write this hypothetical just for that joke?
No, that came to me naturally.
Was it natural?
No. And you've got to think as well, some doors have wheels on them. If you look in like hinges on some kitchen cupboard doors, they have wheels in them.
What?
Think about a drawer. When you pull a drawer out.
No, they have runners. It's not wheels. But, you can't just take every.
Says who?
Anyway, I agreed more wheels, but not for the reason you're thinking.
You go for wheels.
I'm going for literal wheels.
I can't make my mind up. Yeah, every time I think, oh yeah, it's doors. I'm like, but what about all those wheels? And then you think wheels, and then you think, oh no, because they have like apartment blocks. If there's
wheels.
If there's 150 apartments in this apartment block, and each apartment has what 5 doors. That's a lot of doors.
That is a lot of doors. This is some hypothetical. I don't know. I can't give you an answer, Liam.
It's a big one, isn't it?
It is a big one.
And okay, well, I'll let you think on that. But to finish off, I didn't put this on the plan because I wanted to surprise you. I'm giving us both some homework. So I teased at the beginning of the episode that we would touch on this later. We are yet to have
for our
podcast. So next week, at the time of recording, I want you to have 3 suggestions for the name of the podcast. I will also have 3 suggestions. We'll pit them against each other, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if we
See
like
which
any.
one rises to the top.
Exactly, yeah.
But I'm just going to go.
At least that way, next week we'll have been productive.
That is true, and we can both work on a script, and then we can have more wheel banter next time. Really good banter.
Is that what so?
Oh, Christ! All right, thanks for listening. Everybody, count your doors
and your wheels
and your wheels. Come back to us when you're insane. Thank you. Bye.